that's what we're gonna do today. As you can see, I'm on the screen for starting a new game, and I've already entered my player name. There are 3 different game modes. One is called Sandbox, and Sandbox means that all parts and features are available from the start, as it's written here. So you basically got all the stuff right from the beginning and can just play with it like in a sandbox. Then the second mode is called Science, and in Science mode you have to gather scientific data in order to get new parts and stuff for your space flights. And the third part is the carrier mode, where you also have to manage other things like money and I don't know what exactly, because I haven't played this mode yet. I think we're going to play Science mode, since Sandbox mode it's easy, but I don't know, I found you almost have too much stuff right from the beginning, which makes it difficult again to choose the right parts for your rockets and spaceships. And also in Science mode there is a little challenge. You have to gather data, you have to actually do stuff and reach some goals in order to make progress. But you don't have to worry about money or funds or whatever other political stuff. So let's take Science mode. Before we start, we can also choose a flag, because if you are going to space and eventually land on a planet or moon, you want to plant your flag, of course. As you can see, there's also a NASA flag and even an ESA flag for the European Space Agency. But I think I'm going with Kerbin. Kerbin being the planet, our planet of origin, I think. Because we're not Earthlings and we're not on Earth. We're well, is our spaceport. We've got the launch pad, from which we are going to launch our rockets. We've got the vehicle assembly building. That's where we build our rockets. We've got a spaceplane hangar. We're not gonna use this for now because we cannot build any spaceplanes yet. We've got an astronaut complex where we can recruit new astronauts in case of accidents. And we've also got our research and development department where we will research and develop new technology and new parts for our rockets. Other than that, we've got a tracking station and an administration building. I haven't used those two yet, so I cannot say very much about it. So, as you can see, we meet our flight director, Gene Carmen, and yes, let's start by building our first rocket. In order to do that, we enter the vehicle assembly building. Where we get to meet Werner von Karman. He is our rocket scientist, our chief rocketry engineer, and yeah, let's just close this. So, as you can see, we're inside the building now, and out there is our launch pad. On the left side of the screen, we've got all available parts for rockets and, well, rockets for now. We've got pods. We've got one command pod where our astronauts will be inside. We've got no fuel tanks so far. And we've got one engine, a solid fuel booster. We've got nothing in command and control. And we've got one segment for structural buildings, which we don't need yet. And we've got one basic fin in the aerodynamic section. We've got one parachute to recover the astronauts safely. And in the science section, we've got the mystery goo containment unit. This is our first science unit to gather scientific data, which will help us progress and get more parts for our rockets. So why don't we start and build our first, well, it won't actually be a rocket yet, but let's build our first vehicle. some scientific data. First thing we need is the command pod. I'm gonna click on it and it appears in the middle of the screen. One important thing is always the parachute, because inside this pod crew members will be located, and when we're going to launch them into the air we want them to descend safely onto the ground again. So let's look for the parachute. Where was it? Here it is. Let's build this on top of the pod. So now, in order to do some science, let's assemble this mystery goo containment unit and put it on the pod as well. Here it is. That's our first spaceship, but we can't yet launch it because we're missing some thrust. We gotta find it here. This solid fuel booster is the only thing we've got so far. And that's it. Our first almost rocket. Yeah. Let's bring it onto the launch pad. We click on launch. And now we are on our launch pad with our tiny mini rocket. We can actually already gather some science data here if we want to. Let's do this. Observe mystery goo. And you see, if we recover the data, we get +3 science. So let's keep this data for now. Also, we could do an EVA already here, which means basically a, well, spacewalk or whatever, but it's not really a spacewalk since we're see, we get plus 13 science for the EVA report, the mystery co-observation, and the recovery of the vessel. And our crewman is ready for his next assignment, which is nice as well. Okay, let's go back to the vehicle assembly building. launch this time. Additionally, I'm going to enable our automated stabilization system down here, which will stabilize the flight of our vessel automatically, because we had some problems with this during our last flight. So let's just launch again and see what happens. And it goes up much more nicely this time. And our fuel is out. And now I'm deactivating the automated stabilization system and try to move the vessel manually. You can see it works. It won't make much difference now because we have no thrusters left, but we could actually use this in our next launch to try and hit the ocean. Where are we? Okay, as you can see, we're on 7,000 meters still and falling rapidly. I will deploy the parachute at about 3,000 meters. And it seems to be working. I hope it opens. Very nice. And it worked. And we are touching down. Very smoothly and slowly. And our astronaut is happy, I'm sure of that. So, that wasn't too bad. I'd say let's recover the vessel. This time we didn't gather much scientific data, but we get at least 0.8 science because we destroyed nothing and recovered the vessel, and our astronaut is safe. And he's ready for his next assignment. Our Jebediah Kerman, that's his name. So let's go back to the assembly building and build a slightly bigger rocket this time. And for that, we're going to add another stage. Although it's not necessary, no, let's not add another stage, but let's add some fuel tanks. So we've got this liquid fuel, and let's add just another one. What we got here is solid fuel, so I guess this won't work with our liquid fuel tanks, so we want to get rid of it. And well, let's just add another fuel tank. They seem to be fairly small. And just below the tanks we need a liquid I'm working with my trackpad here instead of the mouse to avoid too much click sounds, but it's a bit tricky with the trackpad. So we've got a new rocket, 2 stages, in fact 3 stages. As you can see down here, we've got the thrust stage, which includes our engine and 3 fuel tanks. We've got decoupling, which will decouple our empty fuel tanks once they are empty, obviously. And at last we've got our parachute, and this time we are trying to hit the ocean and take some water samples, because that gives us new scientific data and therefore points. So let's launch. We are now on our launch pad with this other tiny rocket, and this time I'm not going to activate automated stabilization because I want to maneuver myself and try to hit the ocean, as I said before. So I hope this will work, because maneuvering manually can be a bit difficult, but we will see how it goes, won't we? Well then, let's hit space and launch. And I'm trying to maneuver, and we're coming down again. That's not what we wanted. So let me just activate. No, not yet. And I give more thrust. Okay. Our fuel tanks are empty. We are going to decouple, and hopefully we are going to land in the ocean. You can see we haven't gained that much height, not even 3,000 meters. So I'm going to deploy the parachute now, and let's land on the surface of the ocean. And descending, you can see our Jebediah down here on the right. He seems to be somewhat amazed, and well, he seems to me a bit fearful. Well, I don't know, if you want to be an astronaut, you got to overcome your fears. So let's speed up time us 15 science in with this flight only. So we've got 19 science points, and let's see if we can invest them in new technology already. So we would have general rocketry, and we would need 20 points, and we only got 19.8. And we've got stability for 18 points, where we would get an aerodynamic nose, a winglet, and a new type of decoupler, which we will be using soon actually. And we would have survivability, which gives us a heat shield, very important as well. Radiator panels, a service bay, micro landing strut, we won't need that, and radial mount parachute, which can be handy also. So I would like to go for survivability and stability, but we can only afford one at the moment. So let's just wait for now and see what we can build with the parts we already got. That's our rocket. So what would be our next goal? Our next goal would be to reach space, probably, or at least to get higher up. And for this we need more fuel, obviously. Yeah, let's just see what happens if we just build more fuel and more engines on our rocket and launch it again. So we could just add more fuel tanks. I'm gonna do that. Come on. It won't work with my trackpad. So we've got 5 fuel tanks. And we've got our engine. But this won't get us too far. What else do we have? Okay, we have solid fuel boosters as well. Yeah, let's just add more fuel tanks and launch it and see what happens, but it won't be that spectacular, I'm afraid. I think we will need more stuff to build a better rocket. But let's try this out. Let's see how far we can come with just 5 fuel tanks and 1 engine. Or I mean 6 fuel tanks and 1 engine. I'm going to activate the automated stabilization, which you can see. No, that wasn't it, but that was actually thrust. maximum thrust for now. And this is the automated stabilization system. So it's activated. Let's hit space. Here you can see our fuel tanks. Oh, this doesn't work very well, does it? Why is this happening? I think we've got some problems with our center of mass. Let me just decouple our fuel tanks and our engines before something bad happens to our astronaut. And let me deploy the parachute. Oh, yes, and it works. Well, that wasn't what I expected at all. You see, I am no rocket scientist, unfortunately. Let me speed up our descent. And touchdown. Very well. You see, we're not at 0 meters. That's because the terrain here is not on sea level, so you have to be careful about your altitude, because ground is not always on 0 meters, as you can see. Well, we recover our vessel again. And no new science points. So we need new stuff. No rocketry for now. Okay, we won't need a heat shield as long as we aren't able to reach space. So, and this new decoupler we can only use with those solid fuel boosters. At least that's what I think. I'm not sure, but we can afford them. So I can't decide. I can't decide. We don't need heat shields. We don't need radiator panels. We don't need new parachutes. Not yet. We can't use the decoupler. Not yet. Okay, let's try another approach and see what was wrong with our rocket. In the left bottom corner we've got some controls to display the center of mass, which doesn't seem too bad. Actually, center of thrust is of course where the engine is, and center of lift, I have no idea what that even means. So let's try some other boosters. I haven't used them yet. I don't know. Solid fuel booster. Okay, this seems to be an engine. Of course, it is in the engine section. We have another solid fuel booster. Okay, this one has 350 and 75 solid fuel, and this hasn't even half of it. So we are going to build a two-stage solid fuel booster rocket and see where this gets us. We need a decoupler and another solid fuel booster, and we're going to launch and see what happens now. I'm hitting space. You can see our solid fuel is burning out rather quickly, and our altitude isn't very much. So first stage is empty. I'm going to decouple and ignite the second stage. Here you can see where we are within the atmosphere. Out here will be space, and actually we're quite near. Oh, I see our rocket is burning up. You see, we had too much speed and we almost burned our astronaut. But I'm surprised we reached space, it seems. Let me decouple the last stage. So let's quickly gather some scientific data when we are in space. We can transmit. You see, transmitting would only give us 3 points this time, where recovery would give us 10 points. I'm not sure yet we will be able to recover because we have no heat shield, and re-entry is going to be a problem. We're still gaining altitude. I'm going to switch to orbital view. You see our flight path. This is where our vessel is now, and we will be gaining altitude until we reach this point here. 267,000 meters over sea level. That's actually very high. I didn't expect us to go nearly as high, but those solid thrusters seem to be quite strong. So let me speed up time a bit and see what re-entry will be like. I'm expecting our astronaut to die that's it. Re-entry worked, but the parachute didn't survive, and neither did our astronaut. So we could go back now and revert to vehicle assembly, and which means basically this flight won't count and our astronaut never died, and that's actually what I prefer, and that's what we're gonna do. So I see we need heat shields. We are able to reach space now, but we can't do re-entry because we have no heat shields, and I didn't mean to go to the launch pad. Well, we don't have heat shields, and we don't have strong enough parachutes, probably. Can we get heat shields? We can get heat shields, we can get parachutes, and that's what we're going to get now, and build our rocket with heat shields and new parachutes this time. And we won't need 2 solid fuel boosters. We are going to have the first stage with solid fuel boosters, and the second stage will be liquid fuel tanks. I think at least 3 of them. And our first stage. So, and a new parachute. Can I grab it? Yes, I can. Where are the parachutes? I want 2 radial mount parachutes. You will see why in a moment. Because I can mount 2 of them by pressing X. You see there's another one on the other side. So now we have 2 parachutes. Actually, I'm going to do the same with our science Cuckoo module because of balance. I don't want that much, just 2 of them to balance our vessel out. Okay, we have parachutes. Oh, we don't have a heat shield. So, let's disassemble this part and look for the heat shields utility. Here it is. And very well beneath the capsule. And we're ready to go to space launch. And I'm activating our computer, and I'm hitting space very far. Let's just revert and try again. We need a solid fuel engine, but well, right. That's it. Now we're going to launch again. And I'm activating the computer and I hit space. All good so far. Very nice ascent. And you can see again the friction of the air on our vessel, and the first stage is over. Decoupling now. Second stage fired up. And more friction. But it all looks good. Okay, I'm going to stop thrust and ignite again. And our liquid fuel is all burned up, so let's decouple. So now we are almost in space, as you can see. Let's just take a look at our orbital map. Okay, there is going to be more altitude, so we reached space and we can do some science. Let me just speed up time a bit until we reach our highest point. And I'm going to conduct science experiments with our mystery goo. And I don't know if we want to risk an EVA. Yeah, well, let's do an EVA. See what happens. Our astronaut is safe so far. Let's give an EVA report, and he couldn't hold on to the vessel, which is too bad. But I think the vessel will make it, but our astronaut won't. I'm going to speed up time, but it doesn't look good for our Jebediah. And he doesn't look too happy. I think we're going to save him by reverting to launch and do it all over again, this time without EVA. And ascending. Fuel is burning up. Everything looks good so far. let's just speed up until we descend, which is now. And re-entry into the atmosphere is following. And soon you can see our heat shields heat up, which is now, and I hope they hold, and I hope the mystery goo survives, and I hope the parachute. Where are our parachutes? Why did they open? Why did they fail? I think our descent or our re-entry was in a completely wrong angle. I think that's something we should be considering for a future flight. So no parachutes, no water to land in, just bare ground. And our Jebediah died once again. Okay, let's just make one more try before I'm going to stop here. We take the same vessel, but we are going to follow another strategy. You will see it. I'm going to launch, and I'm going to advise our board computer to actually point at this prograde point, which our first stage is over. I'm going to explain this another time. I'm going to explain it when we will try to orbit, because it becomes very important when we are going to orbit. Okay, we are still going straight up. That's not what I wanted. I'm going to deactivate our board computer and take manual control. I want to tilt. Not like that. Okay, we are still ascending, but we aren't in space, and we probably won't reach space. Yeah, I don't know, 40,000 meters. It looks like space. And it may actually be space. I'm going to do science 9 points. And I'm going to speed up. And we are descending again. We should actually tilt our vessel so that the heat shield faces the Earth. I mean, whatever the name of that planet was. Okay, our parachutes are just destroyed again. I really haven't had this problem when I played it Okay. Let's just stop here. I think